CK12's practice contains approximately 150,000 math and science questions. If you simply want students to review material, they can go into general practice using our adaptive practice icon. From here, they can practice any topic in math or science, and they can do this both on a desktop or laptop, as well as on their phone or a tablet. Alternatively, they could go to a concept page, such as refraction of mechanical waves, and click Practice here to practice that particular topic. Our practice is adaptive in that it will bump students up to any available harder questions if they are doing well, or suggest that they review a read or video if they are struggling to accurately answer the questions. Let's take a minute to see what this might look like. Say I'm logged in as a student and go into the practice icon. I can navigate to refraction by clicking on physics, and then waves, and then refraction of mechanical waves. From here, I can start practicing. I can do the same thing from the page that has the whole concept and all of the modalities that go with it by simply clicking on practice at the top or on the practice icon for that assessment. Once a student is in the practice, they can answer questions and continue on. Now, if they're randomly guessing, you'll see that the system will pop up something that suggests maybe checking out a read or a real-world application, or even a video if there's something like that attached to that particular concept. Students can then go in and do that, or go back to practice at that time. When a student is done practicing that concept, they can click Submit and see the general details for this particular practice. Now know that we have multiple types of questions. In this case, you might have seen some that included multiple choice, as well as fill in the blank, or additionally in other options, true and false, select all that apply, and even some of our newest question types, which include highlighting and drag and drop. Let's look at one of those right now. If I look at this particular option on simplifying the expression, it gives me the choice to sort these parts of that simplification process based on step 1, 2, and 3, or not a correct step at that time. I could go in here and say, okay, let's say this isn't a correct step. My first step would be to divide, so maybe I have something like this here, and then if I'm just guessing, we could put stuff there. And I could check that. I got 4 out of 6 correct, but I didn't put the other ones in there. It might even give me some feedback there. If I go back to the question again, you'll see that I have 2 other options when I'm working with a question. I can use a scratch pad, which allows me to draw and write on this. So I could go up and look at this problem and then say 3 minus 4 and so on. Or I could click on a hint option. In this case, it reminds the student to use the order of operations to simplify, and sometimes there's even another hint, in this case, to work left to right within any level of the order of operations. Now, to see how I've been doing on this practice, I could just submit that practice and look at the simple score, or scroll down and see more. Or I could go to my dashboard and click on either of the topics that I've been working on. In this case, let's look at order of operations. When I load the practice details, you'll see how I've been doing, any streaks that I've had of correct answers, the time I've spent working on this concept, and the skill meter, which as it depletes, will get students closer to that suggestion of a read or a video that they should look at before they continue practicing. If I scroll down, I can see the specifics for the types of questions that I did. In this case, I answered 2 easy ones right and not the medium one. And then I can go from here and see the specific questions. You can also choose to download your worksheet, but be aware that if you're working within our adaptive practice system and you download the worksheet, it will auto-generate a worksheet using a sample of questions from there. So if you want students to all have the same worksheet, you'll want to download it and save it and give it to all of them together, as opposed to getting a random selection. Or you could choose to create a quiz from a teacher account and use that instead. We'll talk more about that in the next part of this session. Now that you've seen the basics of our adaptive practice system, let's talk about customizing CK12 practice into a quiz. Basically a tailored fixed assignment regardless of how you choose to use or grade it. To create a quiz, make sure you're logged in as a teacher and go to whatever concept you want to start with. You can start from the adaptive practice page and click on your topic and then choose to customize from here, or you could go to that assessment modality within the concept itself and click Customize. Here it will pop up your comment about making a quiz and then bump you into our quiz creation. At this point in time, you can pick a title, let's say Jumpstart Quiz. You can add a description if you want a refresher for yourself on what's included or for your students. You can change the attempts so that students can't redo the quiz. You can set a time limit for the entire quiz. And you can choose to show hints or shuffle your questions. You can unselect this if you want to treat this as an actual quiz and not allow students to see the hints within our system. If you just want the system to auto-generate 20 fixed questions, you can leave it as is and click Create. If you want to change that number, so maybe you only have 15 questions in your quiz, you can make that you can move that down or up accordingly. And then to edit the actual questions, you can go in by hovering over the box and clicking Edit. From here, you have the choice to reorder. You'll see the type and difficulty, so you could choose to mix and match. Let's say you wanted less multiple choice and just the short answer questions in there. And you can even go below to unselected questions and add them in. At the top, you'll also see the choice to add a question. You can do this from within a quiz or even from within a modality page. If I want to add my own question, it will bump you into the question editor. At this point, you're welcome to pick your type of question. Let's say multiple choice, put in test question for this one, add some answers. In this case, we'll just say answers A, B, C, and D. You could add another distractor. And if you're in elementary math and you wanted students to see the solution, you could put the solution here. You can also choose to add your own hints in, change the level of the question, and if you're not already in a question concept, click and add another concept that you want put it in there or put the first one in. You can even tag your question with the grades or the standards that match it. If you want to get extra fancy, feel free to play around with our variables option by selecting something within your question and then adding and changing that to a variable so that it will change based on each time that that question is served up. Once you're done, you can submit your question and add it to our database. And then you'll see that that test question shows up at the bottom of the questions that you have selected for your quiz. Once again, this is just an option. There are plenty of questions within our database, so you don't need to create your own, but you're welcome to add more to that list. When you're done with this section, you can click Save. And then you can choose to add another question set if you want more than just angle classification in here. Let's say we wanted to add a concept on angles as well. Maybe angles and measurement. I can pick those options, let's say standard angles here, and it will add in those questions. I can then go in again and edit them accordingly or change the number. When I'm done, I can update and save this quiz. Any quizzes that you've made can be found in the library for yourself. So you'll see this Jumpstart quiz right here. And if I went back to angle classification and clicked on that concept, I would also find it under the Community Contributed tab for myself. So in this case, for my version of the Community Contributed tab, I'll see the quiz that I've created as well. We'll wrap up here and go into assigning both practice and quizzes in the next part. To assign practice and quizzes to your students, you're first going to want to go to your groups page. Note that our dev team is working on enhancing assignments within our system so that you soon will see an Assign to Class link or button on reads, videos, practice, quizzes, simulations, and even Plix. This will be a quick assign option to directly assign that modality by picking one or more classes and a due date. In the meantime, or if you want to tailor your assignments, we'll talk about how to assign practice and quizzes through these groups. Let's open up a class, let's say Jumpstart Grades. Remember that only within classes, not study groups, do you have the option to assign work. Once in that group, click on the assignments. And from here, you can create your first assignment. You can choose to navigate to your topic by going to any particular branch and navigating to the particular concept, or you can choose to search directly. Let's say for processes of the water cycle. Once you've gotten your options, you can choose any parts within there to include within your assignment. At that point in time, you can choose to add other topics. Let's say you also wanted the general water cycle from biology to be included. You could click that as well. Once you've added all of your concepts, you can choose Save. At that point in time, if you haven't added it already, make sure you add in a title for your assignment. In this case, the water cycle. When you're done completely, you can choose to save at any point, but when you're done completely, click Done, and you'll see that assignment now within this group. I can choose to assign that to my students directly, or I could choose to go in and add some extra information such as the due date for that assignment. You can add the due date before or after you assign it, but let's say we want to add it for next Wednesday, and it will be reflected in the dashboard accordingly. If I wanted to create another assignment, I could go back in, let's say to angle classification, since we were working on that. And I could choose to add that topic and also add a quiz to this assignment. Since I made a Jumpstart quiz including that topic, I can simply select that, or I could go in and create a brand new quiz to go with this, remembering that a quiz is just that tailored set of assignments. When I'm done, I can add in my title and save it accordingly. You'll now see another option to assign to that class. Let's say I add in my due date first for maybe the following Friday, and then I can assign it here. Note that these assignments were created for this group, but if I go back into my groups page and click on another group that I have or another class that I have, you'll see the same options to assign those. If you want to edit them beyond the due date, please note that you will be editing them across any group that you have assigned that particular assignment to. So make sure that the only change is the due date, or that you create a new assignment if you want a different assignment for that particular group. Once students have had a chance to complete these assignments, you'll be able to find their reports under Reports within that group. If I go back into a student that's tagged within that group and see the Groups page for that student, you'll now see a note that there's a new assignment, and that student can go into the group and click on the assignments and then either assignment that they want to complete at this time. And then they can start. Please note that they can do assignments both within a browser on a computer or even within the CK12 Practice app on their phone or tablet. Any work that they do will be reflected within both their reports in their group as well as yours if you have assigned that concept to them. We'll be able to see those reports in a second. Once students have had a chance to do some work that's been assigned to them, you can see how they are doing by going into the group and then clicking on the Reports option. From here, you'll see the assignments that you've made and assigned to that particular group, as well as the various students within that group. You have two options. You could look at any particular assignment and see the parts that different people have completed, and then to get more details, click on the percentage. From here, it will load the details of that student. It will tell you the number they got correct, their streak, time spent, and how they were doing in terms of any particular part within there and needing to do more review. If you scroll down, you'll see the level of questions that they completed, as well as the specifics for that question. Alternatively, you could click on a particular person and see the work that they've completed, and then go into any assignment to see how they were doing within that assignment. If a student clicks on the Reports option within their group, they'll see the same information in terms of what they've been doing, the level of questions, and their answers, along with an option to keep practicing or to move to the next concept within that assignment. One note, if you look at this Reports option and you have a number of students that might not all fit on the screen, we're actually switching our reports shortly so that you'll see people's names as well as the last few assignments that you've created. That way you'll be able to see more of your class as a whole than you might be at this current time. Last session, we talked about the ability to share content from within Google Classroom. You can do this through the green Share a Plane on any page or from within a Plix by clicking on these three dots at the top and then the email icon to pull up those share features. This session, we're going to talk about some of the other learning management systems and tools that are integrated with CK12. Since this whole session is on practice, let's start with Edmodo and assigning practice from CK12. Once you're logged into Edmodo, you can go into Spotlight and then choose to explore apps. From here, search for CK12, making sure to put in the hyphen, and you'll see the options for science and math practice. At this point, you can add these to Edmodo and use them for student practice, from which you'll see various grades and reports on how they are doing. If for some reason you're in Spotlight and you haven't clicked the Explore Apps option, and you just type in CK12, you'll see various resources shared by others. For example, this one is a web link. This is not the official CK12 app, and therefore you're going to want to make sure you go into that Explore App option first. Within Canvas, you can go into your courses, let's say Jumpstart. Once inside a course, you can choose to create an assignment. From here, when you add an assignment, to get CK12 content, go down to Submission Type. CK12 is an external tool, so you're going to want to search that and search for ck12.org. From here, you can add CK12 and browse CK12 content or include your own content from your library. If there's something that another user has created that you want to include within Canvas, simply add it to your library from CK12 and then you'll be able to find it here. To start adding CK12 to Canvas, you'll need a key. To do this, please do so at the district or school level from your IT or tech department. That way, there's not a number of different keys for each teacher within one organization. Schoology is coming shortly. This integration will be launched in the near future and will work similar to Canvas in that you can assign work, whether that's a read modality or another resource, or practice, which will also share grades back to Canvas or Schoology. Blackboard has a slightly different integration at this point. To find CK12 content, go to Blackboard Open Content, which used to be called Explore, and click Discover. From here, you'll see that CK12 is featured content, and you can simply click on that and then explore and add whichever content you want from CK12. If you show all content, you'll see the over 1,500 resources that we've added to Blackboard Open Content for you to use. Both Clever and ClassLink have single sign-on options for CK12. This means you can choose to add those to those systems and then simply click on the CK12 icon within them to log in directly to CK12. To learn more about other tools and apps that are integrated within CK12 or that we offer, you can check out our Tools and Apps page. To find this, go to the bottom of any page and look at Tools and Apps under By CK12. One extra one that might be useful for all of you that are using Chromebooks in your school is the Chrome extension. By doing this, you can preload CK12 on all of your school's Chromebooks, and then students can simply click on the CK12 icon within their apps within Chrome. If there's something that you are using that isn't integrated with CK12, please let us know and we can talk about the potential for future integration.